good evening. Good bug around my neck. welcome to Fireside Chat, and if you're still with us from the drive, thank you so much for joining us on the drive. It was a phenomenal drive seeing Karula again. It was nice finding the leopard. And one or two things to talk about just quickly. Simon's going to start with us around the fire just to say hello, and then one or two things we're going to discuss, and then we'll go on to the rest of it.
Yeah, welcome everybody. It's great to be around the fire again, and amazing sightings this afternoon in the game grab. Hopefully some of you were able to see that. We saw Karula and some elephants again, which is always wonderful. And it was definitely great being able to spot Karula again. It was a lot of fun trying to follow her. She was moving pretty quickly.
She was covering ground.
Yeah. It's amazing. I was trying to get a judge of the speed of her, as we had the GPS unit that you can see, that the camera operator can see, and it gives a little bit of that, but it was hard to trying to keep the focus on the leopard and do that, so I decided to spend most of it looking at the leopard rather than
for sure. No, it was obviously from a drive point of view, it's interesting how often. Why is it looking so dark there suddenly? So just seeing the monitor in the distance, is it alright? It's looking very dark around us.
It's a bit dark.
Yeah. That's better again. Guys, basically, phenomenal drive, just with obviously finding the leopard, and also the way we found her with the guinea fowl and signal, everything adding into the drama of it. But what I wanted to start talking about, and as always, my first few minutes around the fire, I'm just going to need to slow down a bit. It's always a rush coming straight from drive onto the fire and then having a calm, relaxed talk around the fire. But something I don't think I actually finished, and then I think one of the elephants trumpeted or something and interrupted in a pleasant way. But something I became aware of through an email actually Facebook earlier today from someone that's on drive with us often. It had an interesting question about wildlife in general. But said they didn't want to ask it on drive because they were a bit shy to hear their name, and it's actually something it's almost obvious that I haven't thought about it before, but it just sort of reminded me that maybe it's worthwhile mentioning it, that for many of you and many of you that are on drive with us more recently, I mean, there's a lot of people that have only joined us maybe today, maybe this is your first Fireside Chat, or maybe over the last few weeks. Please feel free to ask questions, and if you are sometimes maybe a bit shy, you don't want to hear your name mentioned, it's totally understandable. And when you send the question in, please just put a name to it anyway, just because I'll tell it from almost a personal point of view as well, from a presenter point of view, but also from a Wild Earth broader point of view. Over time you build up an idea of personalities behind the questions, and I might hear a question from John Smith, and then I get a question from John again a month later, and it's not possible to remember everything. Obviously, we've only got so much that we can remember in our minds, but you start, sometimes you remember, I answered that person's question a while back relative to that, and it just gives more depth and more understanding and color to the ability to communicate and answer the question. The point I'm trying to make is if you haven't asked questions before because you are shy, please send the question in, put your name with it still, but just mention with the name in brackets or whichever way you want to do it, and just say, please keep my name anonymous, or please don't put my name out live, or something like that. That way, when the director radios the question through to the presenter, we'll know who it's from. We'll know it's from John Smith or Mary Johnson or whichever, but we won't mention your name out loud. So it's something you can keep in mind. I just thought I wanted to mention that. I started on it earlier on the drive, and like I said, I think the Ellie's interrupted. Simon, just in general conversation, a question that came through earlier on drive, I mean, you heard it over the radio. There was so much going on the radio with leopard and signal and everything else. But Tony Barnett, who's been with us for a long time on drives, asked the question, and Tony, I hope you're still on the Fireside Chat with us, basically saying if life in camp, or having joined Wild Earth, the experience we have with Wild Earth, which is truly in many aspects unique in the world still, and I've thought about it a lot, I've been here for a while, if that has changed us in any way, obviously this is a personal question, a personal answer, but whether it's changed us in any way, whether this experience has influenced your life or changed it in any way. Also, Leishan, help me here, what was the other aspect? Basically the last part I'll get to just now, whether there's anything that can make life around camp more comfortable. Now that's a long answer, I'm not even going to start on that.
Yeah, that one's kind of like if we have a dream, there's plenty of stuff that can make things more comfortable around camp.
Yeah, ice cream machine, cappuccino machine in the vehicle.
Actually, even just an ice machine, just make normal ice would be kind of nice, but...
Yeah, but there was another part to it, Leishan, sorry.
The other part of it was the environment. surprised by seeing vibe.
Yes,
Okay.
of course. Just in case you couldn't illusion well enough there, I'm sure you could, but yeah, basically just to say the question again. So firstly, has being part of Wild Earth, the whole environment, now I'm making the two question one, but the experience at Wild Earth, is that has influenced or changed your life at all, and then the environment itself, that I think they're referring to things like scorpions under the pillow and just the space around us. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Tony. I'm sure a lot of people are having the same question as well. Yeah, with Wild Earth, I've changed a little bit. Before I was really camera shy and didn't really want to speak in front of the camera, but yeah, I somehow got into doing all the chats and everything, which has been a lot of fun, and I've come out of my shyness shell a little bit. So yeah, now I'm actually enjoying being in front of the camera, as well as I like to joke around that I've actually come out to the African bush to learn more technology and to learn more multitasking, as I'm in the final control, directing a lot, and so keeping an eye on various things, as well as the chat rooms, trying to interact with everybody. That's one of the many wonderful things about Wild Earth, is the interaction we have with everyone, is you guys can interact with us and ask us questions and get those answered live on air just right away, almost instantaneously at times. So that's really wonderful. So yeah, it's changed me a lot to where I'm a lot less camera shy than I was before. And actually, even like the first day walking into the final control was just like seeing all those monitors and everything. It's like, I don't know if I'll be able to do any of that, but I've learned it pretty well, and it's really become comfortable and enjoyable. So that's great. And as for the environment itself, yeah, it's great out there. It's seems like a lot of the vegetation has thorns and defense mechanisms, so that's something I'm getting used to. As Peter's come on the drives a couple times, you learn what one has the softer leaves and what one has the thorns pretty quickly. I learned that pretty early on, which trees not to kind of brush aside from the antennas. Just let the antennas take care of that.
So just from a and I'm only starting to get into the relaxed feel of the fire now. I was just looking into it a bit while I was listening to you. And I think to an extent, there's obviously different aspects, and many of you know our backgrounds already, some of you don't. But to an extent, you come from a different continent, literally, from a different time zone, from a different culture. And a large part of the interest in what we do is people that are fascinated by that possibility. There is a large dream aspect to being to live, to be able to sit around a fire. and to live in the bush and see a leopard around and so on. And how is that tied into the reality of it relative to the dream? I mean, it's obviously something you've hoped for and dreamt of for a long time, to be able to come to Africa, to work in an environment where I'm sure you didn't necessarily imagine it to all be live and so on in the beginning, but you know what I mean. So just that concept or that dream that you had maybe a few years ago, sitting in the States and then thinking, well, I want to end up in Africa and looking at wildlife. How is the reality and the dream